Well, why don't we get started? Good morning, welcome everyone to today's Elevate Buyside session. We've got an amazing packed agenda, packed session planned for all you guys. Let us get started. So, as I mentioned, welcome to Elevate's Buyside Professionals session today. We're super excited to have an amazing set of speakers here. We got obviously over 300 people signed up. We had to cap the session and super excited from all sorts of firms, all sorts of universities, and we'll give you a profile of the audience in a second, but super excited to have on. Here to listen to our stellar group of speakers here, all friends of the Elevate program and all very successful sort of, young professionals in their own merit, and you'll get to hear all their stories in just a couple minutes. Anyone new to the Elevate platform, I founded it, and I'll give you a little bit of my own background for the new folks. About a year ago, it's sort of become, thanks to kind of the support from all you guys, probably one of the larger platforms for finance and investing careers. And the goal is to sort of build a platform that has top quality career resources from, professionals and then make it accessible for anyone. And also build a best-in-class networking and recruiting platform for all stages of your career. So I think now we're growing to over 3,000 finance and investing students, professionals, and continue to grow during COVID. Partnered with all the top 30 undergrad universities, all the top 10 MBAs, as well as professionals like you'll see today from the top firms in the world. Here's just sort of the platform trajectory itself over the last year that you guys are all a part of. As I mentioned, I think a lot of these resources, and I'll link them to you in a second. It's really important, I think, to learn one thing I wanted to do early on in my career as well. So learn from people who've been through the process, so that you can kind of learn from and get the best access to sort of the best advice and resources, and which is what we were hoping to do here. A bit of background about myself: I spent the last 2 years in banking and private equity. Spent 6 years at Goldman, both in investment banking and in private equity. I think having spoken to a lot of the universities and firms here, kind of gone over my ideal background. And so, as I mentioned, I started Elevate last year, about a year ago. These are the schools we're partnered with, and a lot of the people in the audience, either alumni of this school or currently incoming into the top firms, as well as on the MBA side. We're super happy to be sort of partnered with all these universities and all these different groups. Give you a little bit more of a snapshot within our programs, kind of across the top kind of 20, 25 universities, and the 3 or 4 different groups that we're part of each of them. And then you'll see on the right, where a lot of our member students go to some of these firms. Again, kind of, this is just banking, so obviously also includes, Buyside and so on and so forth. I'll mention this, and our team will put it in the profile, but if anyone's sort of interested in learning more, you can obviously find out here. 3 things I'll highlight before we get started. One is the Finect networking platform. You guys, a lot of you are already in it, but effectively we started this end of last year to give you guys an opportunity on both on the undergrad side and the professional side. Now we're open to investment banking analysts to meet one-on-one and really build your network with other people in same firms, same careers, different universities, or sort of different parts of the country. And thankfully, we've seen it grow a lot in the last couple weeks or a few weeks. So a lot of you are already in this, but if you want to learn more and sign up, obviously you can do that here. Again, the profile of the different users that are on it. The 500 or so from the different universities, alumni, as well as some of the firms that you'll see on the page. We're kind of thinking, we're launching a brand new sort of coaching thing, or mentorship thing. Effectively, you'll get more information on that if folks are interested, but effectively there's a lot of demand from our audience on sort of systemizingly transfer high quality knowledge from, groups of people to the other. So, look out for this. We also have, I think it's really beneficial. It's a free resource for anyone. 300 videos from all of our professionals. You can go online and really search by, recruiting, succeeding, career progression, MBA, so on and so forth, from the top firms in the world. Again, it's on the website. We just launched the career mastery training recently. So these are trainings taught effectively all by professionals from the top firms. Highly recommend you guys check it out if you're interested in these careers. And then finally, recruiting. We've started working with banks, PE firms, et cetera. We'll do targeted searches either within our network, so you'll find out more on the website. Right now, we're working with a mega fund on a roll and some, different funds on different roles. So again, check it out if you're interested. The goal is to increase accessibility to a lot of these roles from, various backgrounds, et cetera. And lastly, upcoming events. After this, we're going to have a PE and growth session in India, which we're planning right now. We're going to have a managing director from Oaktree, going to talk about credit investing and sort of what he's seeing in the world. We have McKinsey on, who's going to talk about consulting for those that are interested. We're going to have an MBA panel where a lot of you guys might be thinking about already, and then so on and so forth. So I think just keep your eyes out on that. And yeah, so let's get to today. So this is the audience, the people you're going to be, are here with, profile of the firms and the universities here. Super excited to be, I think we have 35 or so universities represented, so that's great. And then here are the speakers. So without further ado, so let us go to the speakers. All the speakers, maybe we'll start off and you guys can do a quick intro. That would be awesome. So let us start with the first person I see, this Aditya Garg.
Thanks, Kaushik. Hey, everyone. Just give you a quick background on myself, and I'm sure we'll go into this a little bit more as we split out into panels. So as you'll see, if I put down my virtual background, I'm currently in Greensboro, North Carolina, where I grew up. Coming to college, I knew I was interested in business, so I went to NYU Stern, where I studied finance and economics. Coming out of undergrad, spent 2 years at Goldman Sachs in their financial institutions group before moving over to Centerbridge, where I'm currently a first-year associate focusing on private equity.
Thanks, Aditya. Awesome. Ryan Rivera, your turn.
Hi, everyone. Ryan Rivera. I'm a second-year associate at Warburg Pincus, and I'm in the financial services group. Prior to joining Warburg, I was at JP Morgan for 3 years in FIG investment banking and went to Columbia undergrad. So I've been in New York now for almost 9 years. It's a good place to be, and that's where I'm still based. You can probably tell from my background a little bit.
Nice. Thank you, Ryan. Awesome. Thanks. And let us go to Sahej.
Great. Hey, everyone. And first of all, thanks so much for having me. And I'm very jealous of all of you because I think this is a very interesting platform that I wish I personally had. So I'm originally from Tenafly, New Jersey, high school, college in New York City, went to NYU with Adi, and then followed up at JP Morgan in the financial institutions group with Ryan. We overlapped a year. I'm currently at TPG, focused on impact investing. So we have the Rise Fund, which is primarily growth equity checks. And I'll maybe give you 2 seconds on that. So we're focused on commercial returns just as much as any other growth equity firm, but also measuring social impact returns as well. And as a generalist, I work across healthcare, financial services, education, food and agriculture. So it's the whole gamut. And happy to touch on impact investing or growth equity more in general.
Excellent. Thank you, Sahej. Yeah, and all the panelists, we'll get to the next question. You can feel free to advertise your fund and your firm that you're at. I know with this amazing audience here. So good job, Sahej. I think that's that's very commercial of you. Anyway, so let's keep going. Izzy, you're next.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm Izzy. I am from Chicago. I'm actually home in Chicago now, but I've lived in New York for a couple of years post-grad. I went to Harvard, graduated in 2018, studied applied math and economics, and then spent 2 years at Goldman in the financial institutions group with Adi, covering banks and financial technology. And now I work at NYCA Partners, which is a venture capital firm in New York that's fully focused on fintech. Happy to talk about any of the above. And I actually went into college thinking I was going to be a physicist. So I've had a bit of an unusual path to finance, and happy to talk about that in the breakout rooms as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Izzy. I think the physicist lost, a great person in your career choice. All right, let's keep going. So Greg Giordano, you're next.
Sure, thanks for having me. So I am born and raised in New York City. I went to Cornell for undergrad. I studied public policy, focusing on healthcare policy, and originally worked in healthcare investment banking at a small boutique in New York City for my internship, and then for about 6 months out of college before I lateraled to the financial institutions group of Bank of America, where I worked there for a little over a year and a half. I was an analyst and an associate there. And then briefly after that, where I focused on fintech and asset management, I then left to join Veritas Capital, and I joined last fall. So I've only been there for a few months now, and we focus on the intersection of government and technology. So we cover healthcare, education, aerospace and defense, general government services.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Greg. And yeah, we'll go to Sai next.
Hey, sorry if I appear a little purple. Back home in the Midwest, also in St. Louis, and I don't have the best camera here. But and thanks, Kaushik, for setting this up. Sai Abhishek. I graduated from Wharton UPenn in 2018. Studied finance, statistics, and biology there. Spent 2 years in the biotechnology and healthcare investment banking groups at Credit Suisse, and have been at NEA for about 7 months or so now. And I'm on the healthcare team. We have a pretty broad mandate. We invest across all stages. I'm primarily focused on biopharmaceuticals, but also working across medical devices, healthcare services, healthcare AI, and IT as well.
Awesome. The next person I see is Rohan. Rohan, if you want to do a quick intro.
Sure, yeah, thanks. Hi everyone, my name is Rohan Chen, born and raised in China, went to Canada for undergrad, did computer science, and somehow stumbled upon a career in finance from there. Long story, but happy to go into it later on. Did 2 years at Morgan Stanley in Toronto, focusing on primarily mining and a little bit of technology. And then now I'm in New York with Apex Partners, focusing on enterprise software in the tech team.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I should double check, is Michael on yet? Michael's gonna be, I think, a few minutes late, but if not, we can get started. All right, so the organization will be, we'll do about 10-15 minutes of a panel discussion where I'll ask all the speakers a question, and then they can sort of answer. And then we'll go into breakout rooms based on 2 breakout rooms for private equity, 1 for growth equity, and 1 for venture capital. And just in time, I think Michael joined. Hey, Michael DeSau, if you're on, all the other speakers just to their intros. If you want to do your quick intro, and then we could jump in.
Sure, happy to. Apologies for joining a little bit late. Just got caught on another call that was running over this morning. But for a quick intro, my name is Michael DeSau. I attended Duke undergrad, graduated in 2018 before joining Goldman Sachs in the FIG investment banking along with Izzy and Addie. I covered fintech and asset management while at Goldman. And then after 2 years at Goldman, jumped over to Hellman and Friedman, where I currently sit in the New York office. I work as a generalist, but in the New York office, we primarily focus on financial services and healthcare, but have had some exposure to software and consumer retail as well during my 6 months with H&F so far.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for that intro. No worries at all. And so, all right, let's jump in. I guess the first question I want to ask folks here, kind of why you chose your kind of, career path in terms of, private equity or venture capital or growth equity. And you could even, talk about, your thought process, but also maybe a little bit more about your firm. And Sai, do you want to go first?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, I think, when I applied to undergrad, I think, every other school I applied to was some sort of like bioengineering program. And when I got into Penn, I really liked the fact that you could kind of take classes across, all 4 schools. It was pretty attractive to me. But I did start out in a, biochemistry undergrad and master's program. And it was just, way too much chemistry for me. I think, I came from like a family of physicians. That was kind of all I saw growing up. It was such a bubble. And I thought that's what I wanted to do going into college. But I think after a year of just studying only science, I just really wanted a bit more diversity of thought. And at Penn especially, there's so many schools concentrated in one area with the business school and the med school, and everything's so close by. You just get to see a lot of new things happening, entrepreneurship, physician scientists starting new companies and things like that. And I ended up transferring to a dual degree program at Wharton in the college, and kind of got my first glimpse at looking at things from like the operational side and understanding how businesses are formed and eventually run and mature. And for me, I began to see that there are opportunities to kind of make an impact and affect the broader patient population, not just by going into medicine or academia directly. So I think after doing a couple year or two of research, my sophomore summer, I was lucky enough to reach out to a couple alumni and work at a life science VC in New York called Appletree Partners. And obviously, with a lot of these sophomore internships in undergrad, you don't get to do too much, but kind of observe and learn from the individuals above you. I kind of lucked out that I was able to see financing from diligence to closing. And I just really like the fact that a lot of the associates there and the principals were kind of able to have such broad exposure to work with so many different management teams. I kind of had like that privilege to kind of, build their companies, grow their businesses, develop the product pipelines, and really kind of just still see that direct line to patients and developing novel therapies for diseases with high unmet need. So I made the decision to kind of, instead of focusing on like med school and trying to keep my industry options available, I kind of knew that life sciences investing full time was something I wanted to do in undergrad. Actually, snuck into an MD MBA lecture at Penn and asked my current boss now for a job my sophomore year, and he said I was absolutely insane to come back like in 6 years. So it was pretty funny seeing him in the final round in 2018 again. But like a lot of these firms, I think with the process, they tend to recruit out of banking if you want to go into healthcare, specifically biopharma, and you don't have an MD and PhD. So recruiting is pretty straightforward for me. The CS biotech group back then recruited primarily from Penn. There was just a lot of people who were studying in biology and business or economics and chemistry or something like that at the time. So I spent a summer there. Really liked it. It was a great transition from research to kind of reading papers and learning like early biotechnology, emerging biotechnology. And I came back to the global healthcare group in New York just for a broader, more diverse experience across multiple verticals. I knew I liked therapeutics, but there were definitely other things I was interested in. And definitely got the deal exposure in New York, worked on a couple large buyouts and services and a couple large acquisitions in med tech, but, kind of zeroed in on just liking biotechnology in the long run. And, recruited, I think in 2018, that's a stressful recruiting process where people were interviewing in their Halloween costumes and things like that. And, NEA and a couple other firms went the first week, and it was just such a quick process, 4 or 5 days interviews. And that's kind of, how I ended up, locking down the opportunity. But that's been my path so far. I think I personally was really gravitated towards venture because for me, I'm definitely industry first and not finance first. And I don't think either way is better or anything like that. I just gravitated a lot more towards the industry rather than I think the financial engineering portion, which is still very interesting. And I like that venture was just a lot more introspective. It was a lot more based on kind of like your passion for the industry and who you are as a person. I think compared to some of the other interviews, some of the other firms I had were really focused on the what you can produce and your analytical capabilities. So it's been a good 6 months here at NEA. Still relatively new with the firm, but enjoying it so far and hope to be here for foreseeable future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sai. I think very, very helpful to kind of talk about the industry stuff, because I think as you make the transition from, sell side to buy side, I think that, and as you go out through your career, that industry focus and where you could sort of spend a lot of time on and become an expert on becomes more important. So thanks for highlighting that. Rohan, maybe you could comment a little bit about your transition from Morgan Stanley to Apex, and maybe, why you kind of went to kind of a large cap, PE fund, and sort of what the experience has been.
Yeah, happy to share. So I guess I did a number of internships in college, and two of those were with private equity firms, and I always knew I wanted to go into private equity. With that in mind, I participated in the on-cycle recruiting process. At the time, I didn't think I would be competitive for any kind of tech related roles, given how hot the sector is, how competitive it is, and I didn't really have most of my deal. I had a resume with 3 deals in the mining sector, and I didn't think I would have that kind of edge in competing for those positions. So I kept an open mind going into the recruiting process, basically asking for opportunities in New York. That was the first thing I wanted to be. I was moving from Toronto to New York, so I wanted to be in New York. I wanted to do upper middle market, large cap transactions, and Apex. I was lucky enough to get a position with Apex. And again, when you're going through the on-cycle recruiting process, it wasn't exactly where you had 10 options and you get to choose and think through the 10 options. It's very fast paced, and then this opportunity came up. It's with the tech team. at Apex and thought it really kind of matched my interest and thought it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I think that's one thing I'll take away from that is, often helps people that want to go down the on-cycle recruiting process, even off-cycle, to have a sense beforehand of kind of what they want to do. I think to Rohan's point, and I think a lot of the points that people make here, is that it happens very fast. And even if it doesn't, if you're off-cycle, it's just really helpful to focus your time on things. So I think this exploration thing that you guys are all doing, whether you're IBD right now or kind of coming in, I think very important. Why don't maybe Ryan, you can be, and then we'll go to the next set of questions for the next people. But Ryan, maybe you could talk about your transition from banking to Warburg.
Yeah, absolutely. Sai kind of hit on this, but the recruiting process going to many private equity firms is quick and was moving earlier and earlier back when I was looking at the process. So I actually waited to recruit until my second year of banking. And the reason was that, kind of like what Rohan hit on as well, is I wanted to make sure I was as strong of a candidate as possible and that I really wanted to do private equity. So I recruited my second year. I think that kicked off right after Thanksgiving at that time. But what I was looking for in that transition was carrying the knowledge I learned in FIG at JP Morgan Financial Services. And I wanted to be at a firm where I'd still get that same level of industry specialization. So at Warburg, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm in the financial services group. When I started to think about what type of investing I wanted to do, I was attracted to the mega funds, larger cap PE shops. For the same reason I was kind of attracted to JP Morgan as a bulge bracket, larger firm. It just, in my eyes, offered a lot of resources as someone who is just starting their career relative to a boutique. Second, what I like about Warburg and was attracted to is it's a growth equity, private equity firm. In that sense, we are very flexible in how we invest, and we could look at things closer to venture as far as how early the company is, but also closer to buyout and how mature they can get. And the check size varies as well. So I've looked at deals which are in the tens of billions. I've looked at deals which are north of $1 billion. So it's extremely diverse in what we look at, even though I'm still within the realm of financial services and what that entails.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ryan. I think you did a really good job of taking kind of an industry expertise and industry that you're interested in, and then finding sort of that growth angle, large cap private equity angle, where you can kind of do that and be part of that growth. So I think that's fantastic. So the next question before we jump to the breakout groups are going to be, what is sort of the best piece of advice you can give folks, or key piece of advice as it relates to finding the right firm, or just broadly recruiting? And maybe Sahej, we'll start with you for the folks in the audience. A lot of either current analysts or current IBD or consulting analysts, and also a lot of sort of high-performing undergrads who are going into banking in the next year or two.
Yeah, no, happy to. And, I think, this year in particular with COVID, you're actually quite lucky that you're pushing out that decision of, if you want to go into private equity or, somewhere else and what kind of stage, because it's an important and strategic decision, right? That will influence you for a long period of time. So I actually didn't recruit my first year. I want to hold that off until I really want to know if I want to go into private equity or a hedge fund or, not even be in finance. So to me, that was incredibly important. So I remember vividly, I was on the train ride back from Boston, just had gone to a roadshow for an IPO. And I made a list of the 10 things that I felt alive at during my first year in banking, like the things that were really fueling for me. And one of them was, in the roadshow itself. And I was listening to this really great CEO pitch to a lot of hedge funds. And, in the room, you're either the company, you're the investor, or, you're the advisor, right? And I love the way that the investors were thinking about asking questions. And I also thought I would have killed to have invested in this company 3 years prior, right? Like a high, fast growing company. So to me, like I got a lot of things out of that, right? Like, one, it was a mission-driven company, so that helped me with Rise. Two, it was fast paced, fast growing, so helped me with growth equity. And three, it helped me understand that I want to be part of the investing lens as well. So I'd really take the time and to think about what you're really focused on and happy doing, because I think that'll go a long way.
Amazing advice. I actually could not agree with that more. Seeing so many candidates year over year here, I think the people that are most successful as well as the most kind of internally happy are the ones who can make that list and really focus on the things why it's a good fit for you, because it is really a two-way street, and don't get caught up in the, oh, everyone's doing this, so let me do this type of thing, and you kind of make that decision for yourself. Greg, do you want to comment a little bit on kind of the best piece of advice you give folks from recruiting?
Yeah, definitely. I think just best advice is just talk to as many people as you can who are in the industry and actually working these jobs. And I think, kind of to echo what's already been said, but recruiting happens so fast that you want to know your top choice firm or your top, 2 or 3 choice firms, because there's going to be so many firms that are recruiting at the exact same time, doing interviews, literally, at the same hour. And you're going to want to make sure that you're in the right place. Which firms you're focused on, and which firms, if you got the offer, you would accept on the spot, because you're going to be put in that situation, hopefully, if all goes well. And then also you want to make sure that, you have a really good idea of what you're getting yourself into. And I think personally, for me, I chose late stage buyout private equity because I wanted something where there was an opportunity to have, full ownership of a company where you own the majority, you have decision making in the company, you get to participate a lot with the operators directly on how to run the company, how to achieve growth. And I think, buyout private equity was the perfect place for that. I looked at some firms, I spoke to some people there, and going into the process, Veritas was my first choice. And so, having done all that homework before, having spoken to people, having heard what the job was like, I was able to make that connection. And I think definitely if I hadn't done that work beforehand, I think it would have been a lot more difficult to navigate the process.
Yeah, it's super, super helpful advice. We're going to dig into a lot of those topics in these breakouts. And I just want to get Izzy to comment on sort of her advice she'd give folks.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to echo Greg actually to one point, which is, talk to as many people as you can, but I would approach it from the angle as not like I have to, get my name out there and network and, which is, I think a lot of us get stuck in that kind of that up, but really approach conversations with this is an opportunity for me to ask questions about what this person does to figure out if this job is a good fit for me down the line. And like, what am I actually interested in? What do I actually want to know? And I think that helps for a couple of reasons. One, it's a lot easier to go into a call realizing like you have so much to learn and gain from speaking to this person, and it's a huge privilege to be able to do so. And secondly, from their point of view, when you're meeting someone new, like that person hopefully wants to understand your genuine interest in what you actually want to get out of the conversation. And for me, when I talk to people who are interested in, GS at the time or now at NYCA, it's, really invigorating for me to, have a conversation with someone who is clearly really interested in, just talking to me. Maybe they're not even interested in NYCA or what I did at GS, but they are focusing on, what it's clear that like they have some genuine interest in, whatever I'm doing or getting that advice. And I think that's just a much more helpful on both ends, creates a much more pleasant experience and good outcomes for the applicant. And also I just, quickly say to trust your instinct, after getting a lot of this, data through, conversations and whatnot. If you knew your gut at a certain point, you'll be able to know if something is, something you actually want to do, or if it's just something that, most people are doing. For example, going on cycle recruiting, I think is like easy to get caught up in that. And even if you're not necessarily interested in, what those jobs are. So I'd say, try to stick to your gut and realize that there are many paths out there. Happy to talk about that more in the breakout rooms.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. I think in the interest of time, I think we're going to go into breakout rooms now. But I think the takeaway from Izzy and everyone here, just look, also the other thing, I tell this to my MBAs when I speak at MBA schools, like it is a long career, right? Let's not put too much pressure on ourselves, like on any particular thing. The biggest thing, my advice, at least from my own career and from what I've seen other successful people, is take the things you're able to do, get the best job at any point in time you think you want to get into or you can. And then, obviously we feature a lot of top funds here and firms, but everyone's going to have a great career if you focus on things that you are actually good at and things you can actually make an impact in for yourself, whatever that is, right? So I think just really take that to heart. We have 300 people here with 3,000 people in the audience. Not everyone's going to go to the exact same funds and everything that everyone's at, but make it your own and be aspirational, right? I think we have so many stories of people here who started as immigrants and so it's just kind of you have everything in front of you. That's one thing maybe I'll say before we jump in. All right, breakout rooms. There's 4 breakout rooms.